you guys for sticking around. We're going to get very quickly into our next speaker, Ron Kaplan. Ron wrote a book, King Greenberg, in 1938, which is available for sale. As you can imagine, as a young Jewish sports fan in a Jewish day school, I did a lot of reading about Hank Greenberg, so much so that I knew more about Hank Greenberg and Sandy Koufax than I did maybe any other baseball player. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say. He's also the author of The Jewish Olympics, the history of the Maccabi Games. You can notice a theme here, as well as 501 baseball books fans must read before they die, which is more than just Jewish books. It's all kinds of baseball books. I'm very excited to hear what he says. Ron Kaplan.
Well, thank you very much. And just give a little background. The 501 baseball books came out of a blog I do, Ron Kaplan's Baseball Bookshelf, where I do previews and interviews with authors. There's a podcast component there. I just wanted to mention that when I received a review copy of Jay Jaffe's book, I opened it at random, and the page just happened to open to the page on Hank Greenberg. So, as we say in Judaism, b'sheret. A little background about how this book came to be. Mark Weinstein approached me many years ago based on the blog and asked if I'd be interested in doing a book about the best baseball books of all time. Best baseball books of all time. I didn't want to make it about the best, but I thought about the most important books that would get fans and even non-fans interested in the game. So that begat the Maccabi book, which was done at Sports Publishing and imprinted Skyhorse Press, and that in turn begat this book on Hank Greenberg, which Jason Kasman, my editor, asked if I would be interested in doing a book about this very specific topic. There have been some really good books of full biographies about Greenberg, but this one was just about Hank Greenberg in 1938. The subtitle is Hatred and Home Runs in the Shadow of War. And I'm just going to read a little bit out of the preface and a little bit of what Greenberg himself had to say. This is Greenberg in his memoir, which was written with Ira Virgo. It was 1930. Can everybody hear me over the music?
Yeah.
It was 1938, and I was not making good as a ball player. Nobody expected war, at least of all the ball players. I didn't pay much attention to Hitler at first, or read the front pages, but I just went ahead and played. Of course, as time went by, I came to feel that if I, as a Jew, hit a home run, I was hitting one against Hitler. So from the preface of the book, now over here. While taking a break from writing this book, I happened to come across Sullivan's Travels on Turner Classic Movies. How appropriate, I thought. The screwball comedy was particularly popular during the Great Depression. The genre usually depicted the difference between the salt and the earth types who were down on their luck, and the well-to-do who might have had good intentions but were often socially oblivious. This 1941 feature, written and directed by the great Preston Sturgis, told the tale of John L. Sullivan, not the boxer, a famous Hollywood director who was tired of making entertaining but basically throwaway fluff with such airsets titles as So Long Sauron and Ants in Your Pants in 1939. I want the next picture to be a commentary on modern conditions, stark realism, problems that confront the average man, Sullivan tells a couple of studio executives. I want this picture to be a document. I want to hold the mirror up to life. I want this to be a picture of dignity, a true canvas of the suffering of humanity. They counter with the suggestion that he should just make another one of his wonderful and profitable musicals. How can you talk about musicals at a time like this, with the world committing suicide, with corpses piling up in the street, with grim death gargling at you from every corner, with people slaughtered like sheep these days? Maybe they'd like to forget, was their profound reply. They remind Sullivan that he was brought up in the ranks of privilege, with boarding schools, sprawling mansions, and a financially stable and fulfilling life. How did he think he was qualified to comment on the problems of the common man? A determined Sullivan takes up the challenge, naively believing he can just go to the wardrobe department, find some shabby clothes, sit down with a dime in his pocket, and hit the rails. Armed with this new insight, he vows to return and create his masterpiece. He embarks on his travels, albeit never too far ahead of the entourage his concerned bosses have tasked with taking care of him and making sure he doesn't get into too much trouble. At first, he is moved by what he finds, but circumstances change dramatically in the third act, no spoilers here, and he comes to see the light. Regardless of his noble intentions, he winds up back at the drawing board, humbled and relieved of hubris. There's a lot to be said for making people laugh, you can see, in the final scene when he is reunited with his people, all the wiser for his experience. Do you know that that's all some people have? It isn't much, but it's better than nothing in this cockeyed character. In a sense, the Depression was a great equalizer. Poverty made brothers and sisters out of millions of people, regardless of race, creed, or religion. On the other hand, it also opened the door for hatred, as some found it necessary to find a group to blame for the ills that had befallen the great nation. Anti-Semitism was rampant during this era, both in the United States and abroad. Adolf Hitler came to power at a time when Germany was still trying to get past its shameful defeat during the First World War, and pointed to the Jews as the main reason their fatherland was in such dire straits. Meanwhile, in Detroit, where the New York-born Hank Greenberg had chosen to make his living playing baseball with the Tigers, just an aside here, Hank Greenberg was born in Greenwich Village.
All right.
He was born at a time when Greenwich Village was not the hipster community that it is these days, and his father was a successful textile merchant and moved his family to the Bronx, where he grew up in relative suburbia. Meanwhile, Detroit, where the New York-born Hank Greenberg had chosen to make his living playing baseball with the Tigers, hate mongers like automobile tycoon Henry Ford and Catholic radio personality Father Charles Coughlin also decided it was the fault of the avaricious Jews and the world was going to hell in a handbag. Ford went so far as to publish an edition of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a pamphlet originally released in Russia as proof of a Jewish plan for global domination. Given all this, it seems somewhat surprising that Greenberg did not mention Ford in his memoirs outside of minor reference to the car company for which he worked during the off-season. But according to Mark Rosengren in his excellent book, Hank Greenberg, Hero of Heroes, Ford was just the type to cheerfully announce that some of his best friends were Jewish, especially when it could do him some good, either financially, socially, or politically. This is a quote from Rosengren's book. Ford liked Hank. Perhaps this is why Greenberg agreed to work for the company. The affection might have blinded Hank to the reality of Ford's prejudice. Hank had heard the ethnic slurs on the field, but at other times people treated him well because he was a star ball player. I don't think Hank realized how horrible anti-Semitism sometimes was, because even Jew haters wanted to shake his hand, his second wife Mary Jo said. We don't know what it was exactly that Greenberg did for the Ford Motor Company or for how long. Rosengren reports that the ball player listed his off-season employment on his military documentation as working in the personnel department, for which he received $5,000, quote, to investigate subversive activities of individuals against the company. That Greenberg would take on this kind of position, or that the company would entrust such responsibility to a temporary employee, seems a bit far-fetched. Easier to believe that this was just a type of position for which Greenberg was used as window dressing, for other publicity. Just like the movies, baseball is a part of the entertainment industry. It gives people the chance to unwind for a few hours to forget their troubles. And when someone like a Babe Ruth or Hank Greenberg arrives on the scene, a player who can give a little extra jolt when it comes to doing things few would ever accomplish, well, that's just gravy in this one. Greenberg and the Tigers started out slowly in 1938, but by the middle of the season he was hitting home runs at a pace comparable to the 60 Booth smashed out 11 years earlier. The Big Bam was the most exciting player of his generation, and now here comes someone, a Jew no less, to challenge the mark. That gave fans in Detroit and eventually around the country that respite to which Sturgis alluded in his movies. It may not have been much, but it was better than nothing. So, as I was working on the book, pretty much everyone who was a contemporary of Greenberg was no longer with us. So I had to rely mostly on the newspaper and magazine accounts of the day. And it was fascinating to see, because this is also a book not just about the progress he was making in going for the record, but what else was going on in the world, how the media covered it in those days. It started out early in the season during spring training and in April, was going on in Europe was relegated to page 17, 3 or 4 paragraphs. But as the year went on, it moved closer to the front of the page and eventually got banner headlines that dominated the news industry. Greenberg started off relatively slowly. The Tigers were very poor team that year. They weren't as contenders as they had been in their recent past. But as he got toward the All-Star break, it accumulated some 20 or so home runs. And then after the break and in August, he started picking up, going on tears where he hit several home runs over the course of just a few games. And people started noticing, hey, he's getting pretty close. We should start paying attention, considering that the pennant was going to go to the Yankees anyway. They were running away with things. It was an extremely close pennant race that year. And in Detroit, there was nothing else to write about, really. So let's focus on this kind of accomplishment. So it was fascinating to read the prose of the day, the way the sports writers wrote. Very purple prose, as they used to call it, very flowing with language, and columnists of the days would go an elaborate pidgin English type of reference between two immigrant baseball fans, and something that we would find a little bit politically incorrect in these days. So that was also part of the fascination with doing this very niche topic. And of course, one of the things that's been brought up over the years was that no one wanted to see very few people in baseball wanted to see Greenberg break the record because of anti-Semitism. This is something that was refuted by Greenberg, who was, by all accounts, a mensch when it came to graciousness. Yes, he had to deal with anti-Semitism from the fans, from his opponents. I don't know how many of you saw the movie 42. There's a scene in there where Ben Chapman, the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, comes out of the dugout every time Jackie Robinson comes up and starts baking into him with the worst kind of invective you can imagine. And after the game, reporters are asking him, does he think that was called for? And then he mentions that, we call Greenberg a kike. It's just a way to get into their heads, and it's all, we laugh about it after the game. Greenberg didn't always laugh about it. There were a couple of times where he actually went into the opponent's clubhouse after the game to confront whoever might have made some sort of comment. And of course, they were never big enough to admit that they had done it. One of his teammates, Bernie Tebbets, who was a lifelong baseball lifer, said that aside from Jackie Robinson, he didn't think anyone had it tougher in the game than Hank Greenberg. And there's an episode after Greenberg leaves the Tigers and plays his final season with the Pittsburgh Pirates. There's a game where he and Robinson literally bump into each other on play at first base. And in the subsequent at-bat, Greenberg was playing first base in those days, as was Robinson. So Greenberg was on base, and he said, I forgot to ask you, I hope you're okay, I hope you didn't get hurt in that. And knowing what he went through himself, and knowing what Robinson was going through, he gave him probably the most encouragement that Robinson received from anyone outside his own team, and even within his team, saying, you're going to be great, hang in there, you'll do well. And Robinson was extremely grateful for that bit of encouragement, which again just goes to show what a mensch Greenberg was. As the season came to a close, there were sports writers from Babe Ruth's time who were in love with the big man. They were very grateful for him being credited with saving baseball after the Black Sox scandal in 1919. And they didn't want to see Greenberg break the record, not because he was Jewish, but they didn't want anybody to break Ruth's record. Who was anybody to be compared with Babe Ruth? So they pointed it out, as did the sports writers a generation later when Roger Maris was playing in an expanded schedule, the extra 8 games he had from the 154-game schedule to the 162-game schedule. Well, the writers in Greenberg's time pointed out that Greenberg had an unfair advantage because he played in every game the Tigers played that year, while Babe Ruth actually missed 3 games. So not only did Greenberg play in every game, he played 155 games that year because the Tigers played 1 game to a tie, but he played in every inning of every game that year except for 2 innings. He was hit by a pitch late in the game and came out. The X-rays were negative. He was back in action the next day. One of the problems he had to face was that early in the season there were a lot of games that were rained out that had to be made up at the end of the year. And this was 1938, and there was only one team in baseball that had lights. So when you're playing in September and into early October and you're making up double headers, as Yogi Berra Casey sang would say, it gets dark out there early. And games had to be called before the completion because game called on account of darkness, and that's what happened to him. The last game of the year was a doubleheader against the Cleveland Indians, which was played in Municipal Stadium. The Indians actually played in 2 stadiums at that time. League Park, which was a much smaller facility, but on the weekends and for holiday doubleheaders, they played in the cavernous Municipal Park, which seated something like 60, 70,000 people. And it was not a park in which Greenberg was particularly successful. And in the last game, called on account of darkness, the apocryphal anecdote goes that the umpire says to Greenberg, "I'm sorry, Hank, I can't go anywhere. That's as far as I can go." And Greenberg, and the bench said, "That's okay. That's as far as I can go too." So what a classy guy he was. He came up short. He gave a lot of fans, Jewish and non-Jewish, a lot of excitement. And that's why I think it was a pleasure to do a book like this. And with that, I will take any questions. Or not. Oh, sorry.
Was Babe Ruth weighing in on the chase?
Babe Ruth was like Manny being Manny. Babe Ruth was all over the place. Earlier in the season, he said, "Oh yeah, I give a lot of credit to that Greenberg kid. He's a great hitter, and he'll do fine." I could see him breaking the record, but as it got closer to the reality, he starts making excuses. Well, Greenberg plays in a park that's friendlier. He's coming up against hitters who are walking him, and so he wanted that record. There's no take. And Greenberg said, "Even if I break the record, I'll never be Babe Ruth." No one will be Babe Ruth. He wrote an article in Tigers magazine the following year saying that if I had done it, not the, even if I had set the record, there's no mistake to be for Babe Ruth. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious. I know you're writing about early in his career, but what do you know about later at the end of his playing days when he went to work not for the Tigers but for the Indians? How did that happen? Like, was there ever any hard feelings about the Tigers not bringing him on as an executive? So I know he became general manager in Cleveland under Phil Beck.
I have a feeling that when he left the Tigers under the circumstance, he found out that he was no longer with the Tigers via telegram. He was ready to retire. He didn't really want to play in Pittsburgh, but they threw a lot of incentives at him. Greenberg was the first $100,000 player, and he was a very smart guy. Bill Veeck saw something in him, and he was successful. Between the two of them, they put together some very successful teams. Carrying over into his support of Robinson in 1947, he was, of course, the Cleveland Indians at the time had Satchel Paige, they had Larry Doby, and a couple of really good black ball players, and there were hotels and restaurants that wouldn't accept them. So Greenberg in turn decided that he would no longer give those facilities his business. But it's interesting to note that when Al Rosen came along, Al Rosen was the next big Jewish player after Greenberg. He just had an MVP season. And he wanted a big raise, and Greenberg wouldn't give it to him. And years after that, he went with Beck again to the Chicago White Sox, where they won the pennant in 1959. He was a tough negotiator. He was a tough customer. He saw both sides of the coin. So I guess he learned from This is, of course, the day when no players had agents, and he was perfectly willing to hold out if necessary. But yeah, he learned a lot. I guess he just got tired of baseball at a certain point and wanted to explore other avenues of adventure. at Jewish athletes. I mean, even outside of baseball. Although some would say that his name is escaping me right now. It was
Koufax.
no, not Koufax, because you got to remember in the context of the times, Hank Greenberg sat out the 1934 Yom Kippur in the midst of a very tight pennant race, which he got a ton of credit, not just from Jews who, these were first immigration parents who didn't want their kids to have too much to do with sports. They wanted them to go into legitimate professions, and he got a lot of credit for that. There were poems written about him for what he did and what it meant to the Jews, and how even non-Jews honored him for his decision. Koufax did the same thing, but it wasn't the same climate. The Jews were a lot more assimilated into American culture and society. There wasn't that kind of rampant anti-Semitism more than Greenberg's day, and he really put himself on the line when he did that, because he broke up a string of consecutive games by the Dodgers, because I think of the four, the Dodgers, and Garvey, and Russell, and Lopes, and Say, and how they played so many consecutive games. He broke up a consecutive game streak among the Detroit Tiger infielders at the time, and he was worried about what his teammates. He didn't want to let his teammates down. He spoke to a rabbi in Detroit to get. Said, look, I want to honor my family. He wasn't a very observant Jew, and later in life, he turned away from organized religion, and he was always a big supporter of Israel. It was more of a cultural thing than religion, because he thought religion was one of the causes of a lot of problems in the world. And he asked the rabbi, well, what should I do? And the rabbi told him it was okay to play on Rosh Hashanah, because that was a happy holiday. And sure enough, he plays on Rosh Hashanah, and he hits 2 solo home runs that give his team a 2-1 win. Again, in the midst of a serious pennant race. So as far as the Pantheon goes, so I'm sorry I can't remember his name. He was a basketball player. He was drafted by the Baltimore Bullets at the time, but he decided he wanted to go play in Israel. They eventually immigrated to Israel, led Israel to their first European basketball championship. So on a global level, thank you very much, Tal Brody. So on a global level, he's probably at the top for what he did for an entire nation in that regard. But as far as baseball goes, I put Greenberg #1 for, and Jay might be able to talk about what Greenberg might have done in those 3 full seasons and parts of 2 others had he not served in World War II. He was one of those players who gave up a big chunk of prime playing time to serve his country. So for that reason, I put him if not #1, #2.
Aside from 1934, did Hank Greenberg set out games for the Rosh Hashanah and the Yom Kippur?
It's interesting. He was hit by a pitch in the 1935 World Series. He was hit by a pitch, hurt his wrist, and then while he was on the bases for that play, he ran into the catcher, Gabby Hartnett of the Cubs, who was a big guy himself, and that just was broken. They went for x-rays, it was broken. The Tigers won the World Series in Game 6, which fell in Yom Kippur. So you always wonder, if he hadn't broken the wrist, what would he have done on that Yom Kippur? As far as the rest of the high holidays go, the high holidays are very fluid. They don't always fall at the same time. Sometimes they fall after the season's over. Sometimes they fall when there are no games. I have no record of him ever sitting out for any of the high holidays again. The same thing. And one of the things I used to do in a former life, I was a sports editor of the New Jersey Jewish News, and every year it would come around and we called the Koufax dilemma. Not the Greenberg dilemma, because Greenberg sat out. Koufax did too, but there was a big dilemma about what would the current batch of Jewish ball players do if they fell into it, and no one else. Aside from Art Shamsky was probably one of the last Jewish ball players to sit out during the high holidays.
final speaker. I was joking earlier that we don't have a smoking jacket for him for the five timers, but you're making his fifth appearance for Varsity Letters to speak about his new book, Piazza, Catcher, Slugger, Icon, Star, the co-creator of Faith and Fear and Flushing, the Greg Prince.
Thanks very much, Mike. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Gil, for doing this. Thanks, Ron, for covering baseball books as much as he has. It's really appreciated. My book, nice picture of Mike Piazza. It's called Piazza. You might decide, oh, it must be a biography of Mike Piazza. It really isn't. If you want a biography of Mike Piazza and you think that's what this is, please buy it. But it's more really about the Piazza experience in New York, what he meant to the Mets, what he meant to Mets fans, and perhaps, writ large, how we as baseball fans get attached to players and how they come to mean things to us, up to the point that we become emotionally invested long after they're done playing, and whether they're in the Hall of Fame, and what it looks like on their plaque, in terms of whether there's an NY or an LA on the cap, and whether a pair of digits is up on a wall somewhere. And those things are really what motivated me to write the book, to kind of inform the backstory. Really, the motivation specifically was the Hall of Fame process to a certain degree. Not so much his election, but the years he didn't get elected. Because on consecutive Januaries, the three nights, 2013, 14, and 15, that Mike was on the ballot and fell short, it was a very bastion of reasoned discourse called Twitter, in which people expressed their displeasure. Mets fans, specifically, I among them, I'll be honest. Why isn't our guy in the Hall of Fame? And it struck me that we were really concerned about this. Again, Mike Piazza had place in 2005. This was at least 2013 and then 14 and 15. And, I've always said that as Mets fans, we take things very personally. And I think we are, to be honest, an insecure lot. And I can probably trace that back, ironically enough, to the period in which Piazza came along in baseball and what the Mets were doing, both for worse before he got there and for better. So basically my goal with this book was to kind of relive the Piazza experience, the Piazza years, 1992 to 2016, emphasis certainly on the Mets years, certainly some emphasis on the years before he came to the Mets. I'll read you a little bit from how it starts, talk a little bit more about the process, things I want to get across, and then maybe finish up with this very brief chapter is titled, Isn't It Romantic? Preface to a Baseball Love Story. It is tempting to frame the book you are about to read as a quintessential romantic comedy. Scene 1, one side of the country. Team is hurting bad. Scene 2, other side of the country. Player is excelling lots. Team and player are barely aware of each other. Ensuing scenes back and forth between the coasts. Team and player go on with their lives, never knowing something is pulling them inexorably closer, until they find themselves thrown together. Next scene, team brings player home to meet the fans. Player and the fans feel each other out. They arouse something in one another. Is it excitement? Is it mistrust? Is it love? What becomes of team player and the fans constitutes the rest of the story, laid out in pages ahead. It's as emblematic a romantic comedy with dramatic overtones as any movie of its time. Seriously, Los Angeles superstar Mike Piazza, coming to the previously downtrodden Mets and becoming one of New York's enduring baseball icons, was Pretty Woman meets Jerry Maguire and Spikes. They met cute. He rescued them. They rescued him right back. They completed him. He had them loved. There were misunderstandings. There were reconciliations. There were laughs. There were tears. There was an undeniable attraction that, in the end, it went out. In the final scene, there is player and there is team strolling arm in arm to a loving stadium filled with the fans, and together, all three entities ascend to a state of grace and eternal embrace. Roll credits. Actually, that's pretty much the story, save for the necessary baseball details, which the new tale of Mike Piazza New York had, with its layers of depth, encompassing prevailing circumstances, business considerations, overlapping eras, ingrained processes, historical forces, recurring rituals, and supporting casts, aka the other players the team's fans also loved /liked /tolerated sometimes couldn't stand. Those fellows are the constants of a fan's existence, members of a person's extended emotional family, until suddenly they are not. Trades, waivers, unconditional releases, free eligibility, and cash considerations continually tear the family apart, redefine an end of a fan's lucky evening, a standout fixture to be navigated. Some editions of the Mets wind up enshrined in heart and repeatedly invited home to live the freedom days. Others linger in the soul that nobody else can see through, rattle around in the subconscious of a big dream. They're all part of the tapestry, though. Mike Piazza made him the most amazing men of his time, but his time was shared with others. His story, particularly as New York Pete, was their story too. To tell of Mike as well as to tell of those who preceded him, joined him, complimented him, left him, and outlasted him. Ultimately, this book traces the journey Mike Piazza took to go into the Hall of Fame as a New York Met, and why it meant so much to Mets fans that he'd go in that way. Our first step then must be a chronologically slight pre-Piazza step backward to touch precedent. Only one other Met reached the same destination as Mike, cloaked in the same identity as Mike. A Met of the Hall of Fame? Nearly a quarter century before Piazza made it two, there was only one. And that, of course, is Tom Seaver, aka the franchise, the 41, which is where the book begins in earnest, which is not accidental, aside from being the Met who had been in the Hall of Fame as a Met for almost 25 years. Tom Seaver also had the benefit of timing. He went in 1992. I'm sure Jay could verify that he checked all the boxes statistically, but just from a fan standpoint within the institutional memory of the Mets, this was exactly what we were looking forward to with Piazza. 5 years after, overwhelming election, even though he played for other teams, we knew he was going in as. And again, the Met fan being a little, insecure, needs to know those things. There was never a question with Seaver, and I think on some level there was a thought that we would get to repeat the process someday, hopefully with Piazza. So a little stickier wicket with Piazza. The other thing about precedent, we talk about timing, 1992, August 2nd, the day Seaver goes in, that's 1 month before Mike Piazza begins his career. There's almost a spiritual passing of the torch. Just don't know it yet because Mike Piazza is a minor league call-up on another team, the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's beginning his career to not that much accolade, shall we say. But he's on his way. And in between those two events, Seaver going in and Piazza getting his start, you have the 1992 Mets, who some of you folks who read baseball books may realize it's synonymous with the worst team money could buy. And that month, the worst team money could buy was getting worse and worse. The day Seaver is inducted, the Mets, I believe, are about 5.5 games out of first place. They're closer to first place at that juncture in 1992 than Tom Seaver's Mets were to first place in August of 1969. But there is no miracle in the making. They're just getting worse and worse, and more just makes it work. And in fact, on the day that Piazza begins his major league career, you've got Vince Coleman getting thrown out of a game at Shea Stadium, and Jeff Torborg trying to separate him from an umpire, and the two of them shouting down in the tunnel, and this gets in all the papers. And that's one horrible thing after another. They lose 90 games, and they become, as the book that came out in 93 said, the worst team money could buy. And if there was any revenge for the Mets to have on Bob Clappish and John Harper writing that book, is that they made it outdated about 2 months later, because the worst team money could buy got even worse in 1993. And that's kind of where the book takes off in my mind, certainly the way I wrote it. Because you have these two paths starting. Mike Piazza on the West Coast is a sensation. He's had one of the great rookie seasons of all time. He's on his way already to becoming one of the great hitting catchers in baseball, something we could be calling him for the rest of his career, even now. And then you've got the Mets, who are having arguably the worst season in their history. Not quite 120 losses in 1962, but there was nothing lovable about them. And this is the year of Vince Coleman from Firecracker in the Dodger Stadium parking lot, not Mike Piazza, but at Blue Girl. Just for fun. Brett Saberhagen filling up a Super Soaker full of Clorox and taking it out on the reporters who covered the team, which is something I'm surprised the White House hasn't tried in 2017. Bobby Bonilla threatening the co-author, Bob Clappish, of the worst team when he could show him the Bronx. And this was the headline stuff. Just every day was another thing. And then, unfortunately, the late Anthony Young, really sweet guy by all indications, and not a terrible pitcher, but he loses 27 games in a row over those two seasons, and the Mets become a national punchline. And it's a horrible year for the Mets. It's a great year for Piazza. The Dodgers aren't that great, but they're getting better. They knocked their arch rivals, the Giants, out on the last day of the season. So I'm saying here that there's no reason to think of the two entities in the same parameters. And yet, as fate would have it, and the baseball business would have it, and a hundred other things that seem to happen, within 5 years they're together. So the book takes off from 93, spends a little time in the mid-90s, kind of a forgotten period in the history of the Mets, but I like to think that no period should be forgotten. And I think it's relevant because you go from this 103 loss, worst team money could buy, the sequel, to a team that was on the verge of making the postseason, if only we get Mike Piazza. How did that happen? So I spent some time in the mid-90s, season that was interrupted by a strike, another one started late by a strike, all kinds of rebuilding plans that stopped and started, the most famous of them involving Generation K. Stop me if you've heard this before, young pitchers whose careers were interrupted by injury. And the strange realization that you can make all the plans in the world, and then you turn around one day and you have the makings of a contender. Even though those plans didn't work out, which is where the Mets were around 1997. Under Bobby Valentine, who would come in late 96. They had three stop and start seasons and one where they're suddenly pursuing a playoff spot. And they got lucky. Rick Reed off the scrap heap, John Olerud they got when Toronto gave up. Some other second-tier names, but it came together. And so they enter 1998 as a team kind of on the verge, except they're missing their biggest bat, Tom Only. All-star catcher twice, backing up Piazza. He's out for a while. They don't know when he's coming back. And that's all very well and good. And what does it have to do with Mike Piazza? Well, I think in a normal year, nothing. But Mike Piazza living in California, setting records, Silver Sluggers, all-star teams, everything's great, except the Dodgers, the great exemplar of stability, are sold. And Fox, Rupert Murdoch's people own the team, and they do not want to give in to their biggest name, Mike Piazza, who's about to become a free agent. And the numbers are huge. Piazza's going to get paid anyway. I don't want to paint him to be a Los Angeles Angel, if you will. But, he was about to get what he could get. The Dodgers, under Murdoch, didn't want to give it to him. Tommy Lasorda, his godfather. I remember one of the things I read in the research for this. He's not my Lasorda. He's not my godson, but I'm his godfather. Whatever that is. But Lasorda, of course, helped bring, is responsible for getting Piazza drafted by the Dodgers. Anyway, the Dodgers are looking to get rid of Piazza's contract. Enter the Florida Marlins, defending world champions in name. But they're tearing down because they want to get rid of contracts. One thing leads to another. Mike Piazza, the greatest Dodger of his time, is a Florida Marlin for a week. The Florida Marlins, the owner wants to sell them. He doesn't really. The reason he took Piazza was to get rid of 4 other contracts. He needs somebody to send it to. The Mets need a catcher. They need a slugger. They need an icon and a star. Mike Piazza becomes a Met. The book goes into a lot of detail about the golden era, I call it, of the Orange and Blue, 98 to 01, very exciting times. it's weird while I was writing it, and I knew I'd be coming up to some really good and compelling years. I was not excited to write about it because I don't like writing about the miserable years. And I was also very interested in the, shall we say, the denouement of Piazza's Met career and how it led to where he becomes this icon we all care about. So I'm going to skip over the great years. So believe me, there's plenty in here. I don't want any Mets fan who looked forward to the day they got back to the playoffs in 99 and 2000. Any Mets fan whose heart broke on the last day of 98 when they lost in France. Any Mets fan who suddenly got his hopes up in September 2001, and of course will never forget the home run that was hit on September 21st. Never forget what it was like to go to a World Series for the first time in 14 years. Never forget 1999, probably the most beloved non-world championship in history. It's all interesting. But I'm gonna skip ahead. 2005 fascinates me because, and then within the realm of Piazza, because he's the man in New York, certainly among Mets fans, and his time is ending. The Mets don't do well with people whose time is ending. They generally are done and say thanks, bye. They get a little video tribute on the Diamond Vision when they come back, but and I wouldn't say just the Mets. Time marches on, business marches on. We have new players to promote, and everybody's left on bad terms. Tom Seaver left on bad terms at least 3 times. Only thing I could think of, Rusty Stahl got a nice ovation when he kind of short was his last year, and that wasn't any good. And that not really for Harrelson was traded in spring training, and Keith Hernandez was allowed to go to Cleveland, and you just Darryl Strawberry left as a free agent. Dwight Gooden unfortunately tested positive one too many times. And you could go up and down the list, right up to the Piazza days of Garlo Alfonso left as a free agent. Ray Ordonez sent away, skulking to Tampa Bay, and John Franco ends with the Astros, and Leiter goes to the Marlins, and Robin Ventura goes straight to the Yankees, for God's sake. So it's just not the Mets thing to care. They were forced to care with Piazza. I think it was the fans who made that clear. So I'm going to pick up the book in the middle of the 2005 season. Right around this time of year, I think it tells us how Piazza became enshrined in the heart for good, why you probably draw a line. And the rest of the book is devoted to how he came to be viewed in the years after, coming back as a Padre, hitting home runs against the Mets and getting standing ovations, things like that. And ultimately, the crowning moments of the Hall of Fame and retirement number. But I think it all kind of stems from 2005, which is a time again they're moving away from. It's the first year. Every year that the Mets knew they had Mike Piazza, they put his face on a pocket schedule. Except for 2005. They were Carlos Beltran, Pedro Martinez, to a lesser extent David Wright and Jose Reyes. And you can really feel the times they are changing. You've still got the guy from 99 to 2000. And he would not be let go easily. So I'm going to start here, one extra page, not reading, but see an idea of how much he represented the Mets in those days. Deputy Chief of Staff Josh Lyman dreamed of a trip to spring training on the West. He told the White House press secretary, Mike Piazza is going to be standing in the batting cage. He's going to turn and see me. He's going to say, dude. When Grandpa Q on The Sopranos tried to convince Agent he couldn't be Italian, he didn't eat his artichokes, the young man shot back, so what, Mike Piazza eat something but artichokes? I mean, that's dicked up. When Doug and Harry Hefferman's trip to Shea went awry on The King of Queens, they wound up in a holding cell, Mets jail, and kept in voluntary company with a drunk yelling just one word, Piazza! Mike played himself in a romantic comedy 2 weeks ago. This is totally catching a foul ball by some people. Hey, next time go to a Yankees game, Mike. He considered doing the same in a Ben Stiller vehicle, tentatively titled Go to Hell, Mike Piazza. But the movie never got made. He was seen hitting a home run in the time-traveling rom-com Kate Leopold. He appeared on The Apprentice as part of a scheme to sell toothpaste. Piazza 31 showed up in the back of Dennis Quaid showing some frequency. Fred Armisen as Weekend Update roving reporter Tom Jenkins on Saturday Night Live strolled Central Park in a Mets 31 windbreaker. Piazza, New York catcher, are you straight or are you gay? Asked Ellen Sebastian, song written out of admiration for the ball player. The catcher hits for 318, catches every day. And as a comment on the media's more gossipy tangents. Ellen Sebastian would be categorized under indie pop, not quite Mike's cup of tea. His taste for heavy metal was well known and legitimate enough to earn him a seat alongside genre maven Eddie Trunk, a New York's Q104.3 FM. His body unified as a familiar leader of one spectator. His right-wing politics was also the GOP has invaded the island and diddling it out to its teammates. As the 2004 Republican convention took up residence in Manhattan, a year later he found meeting Rush Limbaugh, like meeting George Washington. Rooting for Mike Piazza, though, was a non-partisan phenomenon for 8 seasons. From his freewheeling bachelor days and settling down facing into on marrying Monica actress, former Playboy playmate Alicia Richter in 2005, he was part of the Mets fan extended kin. When a player sticks around as long as Piazza had, such an impact. Less about gawking at a celebrity than it is looking out for his best interests. Hopefully you're not so delusional to think you know the guy personally, you don't. But after you watch him year after year and listen to him expound thoughtfully on a regular basis, Mike was not gregarious in his manner, but certainly not tight-lipped. Your proprietary stake in his well-being transcends over hitting 318 or catching every day. You just want everything to be all right for him. After all, it's done so much for you. Piazza, New York captain, took a foul tip to his glove hand off the bat of the Pirates. Freddie Sanchez, August 16th at Shea, and the result was a reminder why the Mets tried to steer toward becoming Piazza, New York first baseman. Mike suffered hairline fractures, left wrist, and had to spend several of his final precious weeks with an NMDL. In his absence, the ball was one final push for the Wild Card, culminating in a thrilling 6-4 win at Shea over the team they were chasing the Phillies on August 30th. The Mets trailed by 1 with 2 on in the 8th when Ramon Castro stepped up and launched a 3-run home run to Peter Dina. It was the kind of dramatic goal Mets fans were used to seeing delivered by another of the catchers. September was less kind. The Mets fell into a losing rut reminiscent of the Art Howe reign, and they quietly withdrew, even dipping in the last place for a while. By the time the Opposite returned to action on September 10th, the Astros were on the verge of their second guard, and the Cox Smoltz Chipper Braves enjoying a transfusion of fresh blood from rookies Ryan McCann, Kelly Johnson, Jeff Francoeur, maintained their usual vice grip on traditional first place. Acorns grew to oaks during the span of Lansing's divisional dynasty. It seemed impossible at the end of Piazza's net tenure. The Braves remained uninterrupted champions of the National League, so it was true. They no longer won the playoff series as a rule, or even as an anomaly. But during the regular season, it could be slow. 2005, the Mets were still banging their heads against Turner's cool wall, whose game at 9 was a recalcitrant house of cards. The devil simply refused to get on that control. The Mets have looking right off, however, without the Mets of our now, already bound to place. It wasn't enough to eject themselves back in the race. They did rise above 500 to stay, and they did make sure to keep the XX votes. Nevertheless, on September 27th, when Houston defeated St. Louis, New York State in the wild card derby was officially done. Mathematical elimination ensured Mike Piazza would leave the Mets one 2 seasons. Those affairs from 1999-2000 have been the worst memorable and satisfying, and except for a few swings and a barrel of one bat from one shorthand. He said that they only belonged to him in the way a handful of superstars had taken over fiscal lines. When it was understood they never would transpire without him, and Mets fans would always have a home in their hearts for those Octobers in supplying regular seasons and proceeded. It was all expressed as best could be at Shea Stadium on the final Sunday of 2005, October 2nd. Mike Piazza's last game as a New York Met. He'd enjoyed a productive week leading up to the finale, knocking 2 balls out of RFK Stadium on September 25th, and launching one 450 feet left at Shea 4 nights later. The lateral intermission of Sonny Kim of the Rockies, 19th of the season, and 397th of his career, placing him 4th alone at 4th all time. One ahead of Joe Carter, one behind Dale Murphy, who was 220 years of man, and Darryl Strawberry, 252 of the corner. The Mets won 11-0, Piazza catching Tom Glavine from the game shutout. It was the first Glavine for an all year and the first Mike had caught him. Then, chance of one more year with every move made by batter, which totaled more than 62 runs batted in for 2005. Glad they feel that way. After said, but this by mutual consent between the team and the player was willing to be it. Randolph, who Jeff Torkel started second base in his final game in the majors, doesn't year of earlier Shea, recognized the emotional weight that they carry, not only inserted Piazza behind the plate, ironically Sunday's traditional Wanderers backups, but slotted him 4th in the lineup. Mike was the Mets peanut butter once more, hitting in front of him with Reyes, Beltran, and Floyd. Behind him came right first baseman Mike Jacobs, right fielder Victor Diaz, second baseman Anderson Hernandez, and pitcher Victor Zamorano. Because MLB was trying to raise funds for victims of Hurricane Katrina, and Mets batting on this were adorned with Piazza's appears to be developing all the scrapes and bruises he has or otherwise he'd absorbed since arriving at Shea on May 23rd, 1998. Piazza couldn't do for the inconsistent Zamorano what he done for the last 3 minutes before. The Mets fell behind 2-0 in the first, 4-2 in the third, and 3 in the seventh. Despite the strength of his vintage walk-up and Jim Hendricks' voodoo child with a slight return, filling the air each time he batted might not fulfill the fantasy. Home runs 398, 399, and 400 to destinations unknown. He grounds out 3 times against sinker ball around a lifetime 3-1 James. Score, the over, and the less than stellar current season stats were both pitcher in attendance, 47,718. One more victory would have been swell, and that's 83 with Revolution's 2000. We're trying to win sole possession third place. And nobody would have minded number 31 going deep one more time. Mike Piazza given his all already. The idea in the crowd this Sunday was to get back. We don't have any high fives or exchange across the years because Piazza had just done something that's not how many 31s and how many t-shirts and jerseys were worn, how many chests and backs, how many posters of Mike had been swinging attackers taped to how many balls in around New York. How many kids were lured to Mets and baseball family because Mike came up to bat corners on base and came through? How many adults raised on silver and blue and metropolitan passion because of a moment from 1990? How many people had no idea who any other Met was who perked up to the name Mike Piazza? He was a galvanizing figure 10 days after September 11, 2001, and as soon as 6.5 innings went to the books, October 2nd, 2005, he was going to be one game. Not holiday, Carlos Beltran, final out of the top of the public address announcer Alex Anthony directed fans' attention to the light. Up came a montage of Mike's biggest moments, such as a great divide, so the 3 frontmen Scott's battle. There again on the big screen was the frontman for the Mets, catching and throwing, hitting and slugging, winning and trying. All of this, all alone, fervent trying to know. In the gauzy prism of resurrection, there was no grave, no man, and no body in this time. The video ended and nobody could stop Mike Piazza's acolytes, all the 31s in the stands, rising in unison, roaring and clapping out of interruption. Piazza never the effusive jerk of all time, but how to think about, not for having just done something specific, but simply for having been who he'd been for the previous 8 seasons. He did something out. The Mets dug out with his shin guard still on. It wasn't enough. The applause overflowed while she cut him to people were few shy kisses. He raised his arms about 3/4 the way up. He made the sit down gesture. Maybe left him with a humble slice of Renata. He ducked back into the dugout. Figured he could turn off the faucets of affection and stop showing his face. He was happy. Nobody wanted to see. Nobody wanted to stop. Nobody cared about this one. How wide is it from there right now? Just as the Mets still there, you didn't say. 7th inning stretch last year, you know, and 7 innings and trying to get baseball. That's when you know you've done something, right? That's when you know you're a man. You don't see games put on pause that long. You see it for Cal Ripken or Hank Aaron or breakable records. All Mike Piazza was doing was completing the terms of his contract. Perhaps this was a celebration of everybody having gotten the money's worth. Eventually, the game had to be shipped out of Barton to return stage. Reyes made the last out of the bottom of the second, which meant Piazza would be 2 up in the bottom of the 8th. Except Randolph decided, and that's down by 8, and attempted to extract any more bang for the franchise. Mike, who couldn't help but be emotionally spent by the reception, took his position one more time to start the 8th, but after warming up reliever Shido Chikatsu, he found himself replaced by third stringer Mike Piazza. Choreography of Hutton's fans disappointed their country one more chance to shout him that region. While he stood again in the plug again, rose from his crash, removed his mask, flipped his helmet around to his front side, with an enormous and boyish smile as he never displayed on the field of Shay's team. His 14th major league season was over. His time as a New York Met was over. He was 37 years old and he was over his baseball future. Yet somehow, like Piazza, do you have any questions? I'll be over there.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you to all of our speakers, to Jay, to Ron, and to Mark who had to leave. You can grab them for a quick question. You can still have. You can grab their books in the back. Sign up for the Golf Club so you can still get some drinks. Thank you very much for coming. We'll be back here on August 16th.